Hare Krishna. He came all the way from Vrindavan. Hari Bol. Let's give a big Hari Bol for Mukunda Prabhu. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. That is here. Mukunda Prabhu that is here. And he will give lectures. Do you have any particular subject? Okay. So he will speak from the Bhagavat Gita. Thank you very much. Then also today is the disciples of Radha Govinda Maharaj. They are also celebrating the Vyasa Puja for him. Actually his Vyasa Puja on the 4th July. But the disciples are going to do Pushpanjali. So after the class we'll have Pushpanjali for Radha Govinda Maharaj. And then after that we'll have the mini arati for all the Sunday sponsors. And then we'll have announcement. And then we'll have final darshan of the deities, and then there will be prasadam for everyone. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Devotees, especially the congregation devotees who are really interested to help the Janmashtami festival, so please come after the Sunday feast is over. After the prasadam, we'll have a small meeting in the temple office. So please, those who are interested to do some seva for Janmashtami, please come and join us. Thank you.
चैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So tonight I thought it would be nice to discuss one of the prominent verses of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 15, which is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Krishna describes to Arjuna and everyone else who would be hearing this conversation, including us, what are the qualifications of the person who is able to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is text number 5 of the 15th chapter. In the interest of saving time, I'm just going to chant this shloka myself. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvair vimuktaha sukha dukha sangir gachanti murha paramavyayam tat. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, and who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the Lord of material nature, it is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not the Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from the delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he's always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they've divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions, such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we've mentioned already, the oldest commentator on this verse would be Ramanujacharya. He was the one who sets the stage for this discussion. He says, Evam mam sharanam upagamya nirmana moha. This verse describes the person who would take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these terms, we can go through them. What do we have to do here? Has anybody been counting? How many items do we have to keep conscious of in this connection? Nirmana, nirmoha, jita-sanga dosha, atyatma-nitya, vinavritta-kama, dvanvair-mukta, sukha-dukkha-sangir, gachanti amurha padamavyayam tat. So there's at least 6 or 7 things. The first thing is nirmana. Mana. What does mana mean? Yes. Would anybody know what else mana means? How about pramana? To assess. We're always assessing people. Okay, what's this person to me? What can this person do to me? What can I get from this person? This is mana. Measuring. Anumana. Anumana also means the same thing, to extrapolate, to speculate. So mana means pride. Because a person who thinks he knows something, this person is... So mana. And Baladev Bhushan, in his commentary on this verse, he says, what is mana? Satkara janyo garha. The pride that comes from being honored in this world. Everybody likes to be honored in this world, isn't it? That's why we're envious. We're envious of people who have prestige. And because actually we want that also. We want to be honored in this world. Garva. So this is mana. And Krishna says the first thing that has to go is mana. You have to give up this conception of trying to seek after or somehow secure or measure your position with regards to the honor that other people are getting. And what else is it? There are 2 of them together. Nirmana moha. Baladev Bhushan says moha. What does moha mean? Mityabhinivesha. So tabhyam, he says nirgataha. Both of these things have to be kicked out. Mityabhinivesha, to be absorbed in things that are ultimately false. What is the definition of false? What is the definition of real? According to Bhagavat Gita, anybody been reading carefully?
Whatever is eternal is true.
Whatever is real doesn't decay, doesn't stop. And whatever is unreal cannot last. Think about it. How many things that we're absorbed in our lives or throughout our day, how many of these things are going to be here in even just 100 years, relatively speaking, a flash in the pan of time, as it were? Not really. So many things that we consider to be so important, they're really not that important. Great people were honored, a century ago, and now their names are all forgotten. Nobody cares. Even 50 years ago, the people who were the movers and shakers in the world, where are they now? Half of them are dead, and the other half are, irrelevant. Because the time factor does this to all of us. We become dispensed in due course of time. We become irrelevant, or we become dismissed, taken out. They have a nice word for this in Hindi, they call them. So, to be taken out. Jitta Sangha Dosha. Therefore, a person who is freed from this intoxication of pride on one hand, and a person who is free from the illusion that gives birth to that intoxication, this person has two of the qualifications for surrendering to the Supreme Lord, for going back home to Godhead. What's the third thing? Jitta Sangha Dosha. Jitta Sangha Dosha means to have conquered the flaw of association. What kind of association is flawed? Materialistic association. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, not Mukunda Datta Das, but Baladev Vidyabhushan, gives us his definition of Jitta Sangha Dosha. He says, Priya Bharyadi Sneha Lakshana. That kind of relationship which is characterized by, will be egalitarian because this is America. Not just the wife, but the husband also. So, it's characterized by this kind of affection. We have our relatives in this world. Now, the poet Kabir Das, he says, who is really your relative in this world? Who is really your brother? Who's really your mother, your father, your friends, your relatives? Jabalaga pallo mein paisa hua, tabalaga meetha bole. As long as a person has money, everyone is interested in you. Shankaracharya said this a long time ago, actually. He said, what is that? Yavad vitto parishna sakta, tavan nija parivaro rakta. Same thing. Pashtad jivati jarjaratehe, you know this. When a person is old and irrelevant, as we mentioned earlier, and cannot produce anything for anyone else, then vardham kopina prichhati gehe. Even in your own home, nobody will ask, how are you doing even? This is love in the material world. So what is the point of investing in these relationships? On the way here, we were seeing somebody had a bumper sticker, I love my big mutt. M-U-T-T. Dog culture. Srila Prabhupada used to tease us about this. Here in America, everybody loves dogs so much. I don't know about Atlanta, but if you go to West Los Angeles, Zurur, you're going to see, especially young women, they have these little purses, and inside of each purse there's a small dog, like a toy poodle or something, or a chihuahua or something. They just, dog culture is very prominent where I come from. I can speak like this because I'm from that place, Hollywood. So, dog culture, and Srila Prabhupada said, we're concerned with G-O-D, and these people are concerned with D-O-G. The material world is, after all, a perverted reflection. Everything is the opposite of what it is in the spiritual world. So, Jitta Sangha Dosha means not only your relationships with your pets or your friends, all the people that you think love you, as long as you have money or can do something for them. But in particular, one kind of attachment is the strongest in this world, and what is that? Anybody know? Pumsa striya mitri bhava medam. The relationship between male and female. Of course, nowadays, even that, you don't even have to be the opposite sex anymore. But, the sex desire point, the point is that it's very strong. And this is considered to be the shackles. So therefore he calls it Sangha Dosha, the flawed association. So we have to be free from pride. Pride is based on moha. The illusion is multiplied, exacerbated, aggravated when we indulge in this sex life. Gross or subtle, what doesn't make any difference. Even if it's subtle, it still has the intended effect of moha. So, Jitta Sangha Dosha, a person should have conquered this thing. And Srila Prabhupada is using the word here in his translation. Vinivritta kama. Vinivritta kama. Vinivritta kama. What does it mean? Visheshkar. Vinivritta kama. You're done with it. Kama. How do we translate the word kama? What does kama mean? Desires generally, actually. We'll get to that in a moment. I mean, in today's society, we should kind of emphasize the sexual aspect, as Srila Prabhupada often does, because we do live in a hyper-sexed society. This is something I noticed when I first moved to India. This was maybe back in the 1980s. Then it was more apparent than it is now. Now in India it's just as bad as America. It doesn't really make any difference. But I just thought, my God, here's a society of people freed from this ball and chain. Or at least apparently freed. At least they've structured the society in such a way that nobody can see the disease. And, you know, out of sight, out of mind. So there's benefit in that. Paramparagat Bharatiya Sanskriti has its value in this way. That is to say, traditional Indian civilization or culture has this aspect that the sex desire, cultivation of that desire, that attachment, it's minimized, it's obscured at least. Even if the disease is still there, as long as the program that you've double-clicked on it, it may still be running in the background, but at least it's not in your face the way it is here. Now, of course, that's all changed. I remember in Pune, I saw one billboard, and this was long ago, this many years ago. There was a woman advertising something, and this woman had not one stitch of clothing on, completely naked, on the billboard. But she was covered with chocolate from the neck down. This is the new India. I mean, you know, that way it got past the censors, I suppose. But anyway, all right, so then what's the next thing? Adhyatma Nitya. This is a significant thing. Adhyatma Nitya. What does Adhyatma mean? Spiritual. And Nitya means? So, yes. To be always on the spiritual platform. How do we do that? Swa Paratma Vishayako Vimarsha. Bhagavat Gita says. And Nitya Kardavyo. One who takes it as his daily principle, as a rule, he cultivates an awareness of his own spiritual identity and the identity of the Supreme Lord. This is what it means to be adhyatma nitya, to be constantly on the spiritual platform. It means to be constantly cultivating as a daily practice. What is my position? Am I thinking of God? Am I aware of my own condition? Or am I being carried away by the waves of so many desires? This is another way to translate kama, since we're there. Kama. How does he translate it? Actually, Baladevi Davbhushan doesn't touch it, but Ramanurajacharya says, Vinivritta tad itara kama. Anything that is opposed to that constant daily cultivation of spiritual awareness, that is called kama. So anything that is not Krishna conscious, he says, this is kama, and one has to be done with that. So adhyatma nityo vinivritta kama, and then dvanvair vimuktaha sukha dukkha sangyer. Sukha dukkha. What does sukha dukkha mean? Happiness and distress. And Dvanvairthi muktaha, to be freed from the dualities such as happiness and distress. What else do we have? What other kinds of dualities?
Loss and gain.
Loss and gain. Baladevi Davbhushan mentions a couple more. Shitoshnadipi, things like heat and cold. Here I think everybody's feeling warm now, is it? You have the AC on your house all the time, I know that. But from where I'm coming from, it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So for me, it's nothing, because I'm feeling a little cool. But anyway, these things come and go. If you go to Detroit in January, or Manitoba, you're going to be very cold. And if you go to Palm Springs in the middle of the summer, or better yet, Vrindavan in the middle of April, you're going to be very hot. So one has to be a little bit detached from these things by practice. You can't change anything, especially with global warming and, you know, whatever, they're playing around with the magnetic poles and whatever they say the scientists are doing these days. Messing up the weather, everybody's realized it worldwide. You have to tolerate. So a person who can become freed from being pushed around by these things. What does he say? Vimukta means tatsahishnava. Tatsahishnava. To be able to tolerate that. Tolerance. Where does tolerance come from when you're constantly seeking honor? Where is tolerance when you're pushed around by your desires? Where is tolerance when you're completely absorbed in things that are false or temporary? So actually all these different, there are 6, 7 adjectives, or 6, 7 things he's mentioning. We have to deal with these things in order to become Krishna conscious, but actually there's only really one thing, and these are just different aspects of that one effort. That effort is to be Krishna conscious around the clock, to be awake to our spiritual position, and that is called amudha. Amudha. This is another word he's using here. Prabhupada translates it here as unbewildered. So amudha. What does mudha mean? Foolish person. What else does it mean? Ass. Donkey. Or, pince. And we say in India, buffalo. They're not so bright. People prefer to keep buffaloes in India to cows. Why? Because cows are sensitive. Cows are intelligent. Cows have their own program. They're not so submissive. Pince, buffalo, it's very easy. Just, okay. So people are becoming like this. Whatever you tell the buffalo to go, okay, all right. So people are actually like this. In the modern world, we're all being pulled around by our cell phones, isn't it? If these things are designed, we were having a discussion. You get on a metro tram or something. Do you have metro system here in Atlanta? So what? Martha, right? Okay. Killing. Martha. In Hindi, Martha means killing. So, you see people are standing there and each one of them is tuned in. Devamrita Swami calls this mass consensual trance. Mass consensual trance. Everybody's just surrendered. That somebody, I read some article, this is, believe it or not, this is BBC. They said that actually the Facebook, I think it was Facebook, before it was privatized, this was a project of the Central Intelligence Agency. They wanted to see how easily they could get hundreds of thousands of Americans to just surrender their personal data, their personal lives and private information on, to the public. And it worked like a charm. And Mark Zuckerberg has been laughing ever since. So, amudha. One should not be like a stupid animal. One should be conscious that, hey, I've got a few years to go here. What are your productive years in life? We were discussing. Somebody was telling me his father told him, one day I graduated from college and I was newlywed. And then, I opened my eyes 10 years later and I had gray hairs and all my kids were in college. It seems like that. You don't really have that much time in this world. You've got a few decades maybe, and anybody over 50 knows time speeds up as you get older. It certainly seems that way. It speeds up. So, Sangata Santana ki karale. Take advantage of the association of the saintly persons. Uttama naradeha paya. You receive this human form of life. Isaka hitakacha karale. Try to understand what kind of a boon it is and do something. Do something while you can. While you can. When I was in Seattle, the devotees used to hand out these cards with the Maha Mantra written on it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It had a picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda dancing in ecstasy. So I said, please chant this Hare Krishna mantra while you can. just for the intelligent people. The buffalo won't get it, but anybody who's got a brain, wait a minute, why did they say like that? And he'll figure it out. We don't have that much time, and the opportunity of having a sound mind and body is not granted. It's not guaranteed. One woman I know, a devotee, in Los Angeles, she woke up and she could not find her way to the bathroom to brush her teeth. Why couldn't she find her way to the bathroom? Because she went blind overnight. She has some problem with her eyes. She just lost her vision like that. And she's been struggling ever since. So don't take it for granted, because it's not granted. You have a little bit of time and you have some good karma now, but it's going to be taken away. That is definite. It's going to be taken away. Sometimes these economists, they speculate about, long-term market speculation. Anybody familiar with the name John Maynard Keynes? Famous economist, historical personality, one of those people from 100 years ago that not many people remember anymore. But he said, in the long run, we're all dead. So this is life. We have a short window of opportunity, and unlike the animals, who are called mudha, we can actually think about where we're going. Now, raise your hand, parents. Raise your hand if you have kids. If you're a parent, raise your hand. Okay, a good number of our audience here. Now raise your hand if you have no plan to send your children to school. No plan whatsoever. If God wants, then I'll send him to school. Yes, we're all making some plan for our future. This is called Shreyas. But when it comes to spiritual life, well, when Bhagavan desires, then I'll become Krishna conscious. That doesn't work like that. You have to make a strategic plan. And this is what these instructions are meant for this, in case we're actually thinking seriously about this. You don't need the information in this verse if you've got no plan and no intention of making something of your life. But if you're conscious of the fact that you're inching towards death, which that's something that material nature reminds you as you get older, then you might want to think about these things a little bit seriously, and you might want to make some kind of plan. Even a bad plan is better than no plan. So, Ganchanti mudha pranam avyayam. The persons who go to that avyayam pada. Avyayam pada means that place which is real. It doesn't decay. Avyaya. Vyaya means to decay. We already described in the beginning. This is a pop quiz. Everybody listening? Okay. How do we define the difference between real and unreal? Everybody except Adi Gadadhar can answer this. If it's temporary, it's not really real. And if it's eternal, then it's real. This is the acid test. And Krishna introduces this lesson early on in Bhagavad Gita. Where? Anybody know the verse? People, if you're not reading Bhagavad Gita, you think anybody else in Atlanta is reading Bhagavad Gita? This is the Hare Krishna temple. We're like, we're supposed to know these things. Nasate vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, upayorapi drishtam tas tvanayostat vadarshati. Seers of the truth, they've given this assessment. If something is real, it will last. Okay, kids. Shh. Just like we have classical things that are considered to be classical, like Shastriya Sangeet, for example, or classical painting, or whatever it is. What determines whether something is classical or not? It has to withstand the test of time. It has to transcend geographical boundaries, linguistic, ethnic boundaries, these kinds of things. So even in this mundane world, there is some truth to this. If something is substantial and worth, has real value, it doesn't decay with time. And paltry things that come and go, just like hula hoops. Anybody know what a hula hoop is? Probably only Balabhadra knows. This was way back in like the 1950s or the 1960s, and these things were wildly popular. It's just a hoop of plastic, and you have to dance in such a way to keep the thing spinning around your waist. And every kid in America was just nuts over these things. And now, nobody even heard of it, and nobody cares. So what's really valuable in life? The closer you get to eternity, the more value the thing is conferred with. This is the point. So these are some good lessons for those who are seriously thinking about this. Even if you're not seriously thinking about this, that's understandable. Just make sure you get prasadam before you leave today. And try to chant Hare Krishna in your spare time if you can do that. kuch hona chahiye. So these are some lessons we can take from Baladeva Dabhusham. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, he's a little bit more focused. He only talks about one thing. What does he say? This verse explains what qualities lead one to pure devotional service, to going back home to Godhead. And he says, Adhyatma Nitya. Those who constantly consider the Atma as a regular rule. In other words, those people who are constantly reflecting on Paramatma. You're thinking about, who am I really? And who is God? Somebody who's thinking like this, he's called Adhyatma Nitya. So he's really focused. All these 7 things, he like boils them down into one point. It's a little bit like a magnifying glass. Where I come from in Southern California, every summer, half the state burns down. They have wildfires. And as if that weren't that enough, you have crackpots from Los Angeles, because after all, California is the land of fruits and nuts. So, you know, they go out into the mountains and they deliberately set fires. So if you take a magnifying glass, you can collect all the sun's rays. Dashashatakara is described in the Hitopadesh. He's a person who has 1,000 hands. The sun. Each hand is a ray. Kirana. Sun rays. These rays are diffused throughout the entire sky, but if you collect them and pinpoint them in one spot through a magnifying glass, that gives you great power, doesn't it? What can you do? You can start a fire. You can burn down half the state of California. Every year they have to call in fire departments from as far away as British Columbia and Colorado to put out the fires in Southern California because they just don't have the resources or the water to deal with it. So power, there's power in focus. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has taken all these 6, 7 principles that we mentioned, beginning with nirmana, and he's focused them in one thing. Be concerned about your real identity. Adhyatma Nitya. Be such a person who is concerned about, who am I, who is God, what can I do about this now, before the big door slams shut again? What does that mean? Before you're kicked out. When it's time when you're served the eviction notice, you're lucky if you get an eviction notice. Sometimes they just come into your apartment and kill you. So, you know, you can die before your time as well. But if you know you have some time, take advantage of it while you can. So, he focuses on this thing. Now, Srila Prabhupada has cooked it down even further than that, because who is Srila Prabhupada writing for? He's writing for 20th century humankind. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was back in the 17th century. Srila Prabhupada, if anyone was listening very carefully, you may have noticed, what is the main thing that Srila Prabhupada talks about in his own commentary on this verse? Does anyone remember? I'll just give you a hint here. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. Okay, we've got one paragraph, this purport, but I was looking at the paragraph. About 4/5 of that paragraph are elaborating on this one point. Don't be so puffed up. Don't be so proud. Don't be so eager to be honored in this world. What is it? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in his inimitable way, all the things, you know, all the honor in this world is worth nothing more than the stool of a boar. Really. Think about what will it do for you in 100 years if somebody praises you today? Nothing.
Jodero Pratishtha Shukorer Vishta.
Yeah.
That's a Bengali verse.
Yes. So, I mean, even in our Shastras, we find some statements that a person who gains fame, he lives forever. There's some truth in that. But you don't gain fame by doing infamous things, notorious things. You gain fame mainly through surrender. People respect this. People value this in the long term. You know, you can become a big, you know, Bollywood star, but that, you know, you'll be replaced by another Bollywood star in a few years. Nothing. But somebody like Srila Prabhupada, even half a century later, after he's gone, and still we're worshiping him worldwide. Hundreds and thousands of people. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai! So Srila Prabhupada is dedicating most of his purport to the real thing that snags us. We're so puffed up. We're so just do not even appreciate in the modern world. You don't even appreciate being humble. I was in Hyderabad and I seen billboards all over the city. Somebody was very aggressive marketer. And they're saying, you know, train your kid up how to be a leader. Does anybody ever see any billboards for school advertising schools? Train your child up how to be humble. Never. It's an excluded value in this material world. We don't care about this. I want to be, what's your ambition in life? Everybody wants to, you know, wants to go get them. But how many people actually say my ambition in life is to become a really first-class follower? Nobody. But actually the meek shall inherit the earth. Who said this?
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. Christians know this. So, this is the point, nirvana. This is the first qualification, and practically speaking, the only qualification that Srila Prabhupada dilates on. Why? He explains. If you listen carefully, especially listen between the lines to what he says here. He's talking about this, he's talking about pride, and then he concludes, when one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge, one has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full of knowledge, then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In case you haven't noticed, Srila Prabhupada is kind of wrapping up all those other items that are mentioned in this verse under this one particular, umbrella, nirmana hona. You have to become nirmana, prideless. Only a humble person can learn something, only a humble person can make advancement in this world. What to speak of in the spiritual world. Okay, I'm going to stop here. In case anybody, we have time for maybe one or two questions. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Coming back to the point of pride, I feel that pride and fear are kind of related, but you can elaborate on that. And to use a crude example, like back in the 50s and 60s, post-World War II, Soviet Union and the US rushed to make as many nuclear weapons as possible. And even today, like all the biggest economies of the world are focused on taking as many aircraft carriers and supersonic aircraft they can to get on top of one another. So aren't pride and fear kind of like two sides of the same coin?
Well, how did he define moha or illusion? You're excused if you don't remember, it was technical. He said, mithyabhinivesha. Abhinivesha. What does abhinivesha mean? To get into something or to be absorbed in something. In the 11th canto, Krishna teaches Uddhava, bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshata syat. Fear is automatically produced as soon as you get absorbed in something that is second. What is second means? Non-Krishna. Ishat apetasya viparya smriti. As soon as you turn away from God and start getting into something non-God, this is like India nowadays, I've seen this. Everywhere they possibly can, they're pushing God out of the picture in India. Just like, you used to find places like, in Delhi, Ramakrishnapura. But now the new subdivisions have names like Flower Valley, Central Park. I mean, they're not even using their Indo-Aryan languages. It's like too much Vishnu in that even. So, we got to go whole hog, as it were, secular. And, absolutely nothing to do with God. And the result is that everybody is suffering so much more. So that's called dvitiya, looking for something other than God, something second. Actually, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, there's only God. And a person becomes Krishna conscious of that fact, he becomes peaceful and happy. He doesn't fear anything, because Krishna can handle anything. But we're blessed with fear as soon as we turn away from God and entertain something second, become absorbed in things that are mithya. So in that sense, the pride of the heady, giddy mix that we've concocted to intoxicate ourselves with the illusion of godlessness you know, this is what's caused so much fear as well. It goes together. You have to be afraid. Is that okay? Anything else? Okay, so then I think it's time to stop now, almost 5:30. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Just regular synthetic, you can carry it. So it's easier for you to carry. Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So really like to give a big thank to Mukunda Datta Prabhu. Let's say Hari Bol. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Spoke so wonderfully the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So and I like to call the devotees who sponsored the Sunday feast. Is anyone, any disciple of Radha Govinda Maharaj is here? If you are here, please come and do the mini arati. And also like to request Pavan Krishna Prabhu and family to come and do the mini arati. Then we have Shravani and Badla Modi. If you are here, please come and do the mini arati. And Manoj Mishra and family, please come and do the mini arati. And then we also Krishna Sharan Prabhu, please come and do the mini arati.
The appearance day of His Holiness Sri Radha Govinda Maharaj. Some of you may know, and most of you may not know, he travels around India and he speaks just on the Srimad Bhagavatam. That was the instruction given to him by his spiritual master. And recently he's been training devotees up in the studies of the Srimad Bhagavatam and also to speak on it. We recently had Lord Krishna Maharaj. He's a great speaker on the Srimad Bhagavatam, very well versed. And we also have Lal Govinda Prabhu, who is another young devotee. soon we also have this devotee who comes to Atlanta, Amarendra Prabhu. So all devotees very well trained in the philosophy. So His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj, his physical mortal body became 7 to 2. And he continues to travel. And this year he is planning to come to Atlanta. One of his disciples, Lal Govinda Prabhu, told me he is trying to bring Maharaj to Atlanta. He's coming to the United States. I wanted to make sure that we get his association in Atlanta. It has been almost a decade and a half that he has not visited the United States. So they want to cut a cake in celebration of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj. So we'll just chant Hare Krishna 3 times, seeking the blessings of His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj as they cut the cake. Are we ready? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Prabhus. So, we are also honoring His Grace Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu and I forget the Mataji's, Kanika Mataji. They're being extremely instrumental here in Atlanta's the children's programs and also the college outreach. Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu here, and Mataji, if you could please come. Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu. Many of you may know him, and you may have seen Kanika Mataji here in the temple, arranging beautiful dramas, beautiful plays for the children. Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu is a very sincere devotee. He's initiated and very fixed up in his sadhana. He just finished his postdoc at Georgia Tech, and he's now going back to India because as a devotee of Krishna, he feels that his parents have shown him the path to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, he's going to go back to India and take care of them. And hopefully he also has some job prospects there. And we're hoping and praying that he will continue to come and visit us, because both Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu and Kanika Mataji, they are very well known amongst the students at Georgia Tech in our spiritual family there. They will be missed, and also here in the temple they have rendered so many months of very beautiful service. They've been here for 1 year. And although his professor wants him to stay back, spend more time, but he has agreed to release him so he can go back to India. So we're going to pray to their lordships for Bhagavat Krishna Prabhu and Kanika Mataji, that they continue in their spiritual practices and become even stronger in their mission of spreading the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if you can give him his... If we can raise our hands, we're going to pray for this beautiful devotee couple, that they continue to visit us and inspire their youth in their Krishna consciousness. And Kanika Mataji, this beautiful place with the children, hopefully she can come and spend some time, carry on that service here in Atlanta. Together? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you want to chant more, you can chant more. Thank you. Thank you, Bhagavat Krishna Guru, Kanika Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So, we would like to request Manoj Mishra and family to please come up. And Neha, Manoj, Neha. And if your parents are able to come, that would be nice. So, Manoj, he has this beautiful child. His name is Aryan. And you can see he has a big sika. Can you see his sika? He has a very big sika because they just did a Mundan ceremony where they chopped all his beautiful hair off and just left his sika. And they're sponsoring the Sunday feast celebrating the Mundan ceremony. For those of you who do not know what is Mundan ceremony, it's called Chuda Karanam, where they show this sign of detachment from the material body at a very young age by chopping off all the hair. And we're also celebrating Neha's birthday. So mother of the son. So let's do this. We're going to sing happy birthday to the mother. And then we're going to all get together and pray for the whole family. Does that sound like a good plan? So we're going to sing happy birthday to Neha. And we're also very happy. Manoj is not always here. He's always traveling around. I think he spends more time in the air than on the ground lately. And Neha has to be alone home with the parents taking care of young Aryan. So we're going to sing happy birthday to Neha. Are we ready? Yeah. Everyone know her name? Neha. Ready? Together? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Neha. Happy birthday to you. Raise both your hands. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Thank you so much, Manoj. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We have, with all the good news, we have some more good news. Indra Arora Mataji, is she here? She's not here. She's going to India right now because her mother, Virma Devi, just departed this world, hopefully to go back to the spiritual world, because she's a very sweet devotee, dedicated servant, very fixed up in her sadhana. So she's requesting that the devotee family, which is her family, that we can pray for her mother, that she continues on her journey to the spiritual world. So if we could all please raise both our hands and pray for Virma Devi. Together? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, thank you so much for helping me stand up. I just wanted to give you some dates, if you could pencil those dates in your calendar. Very soon there's a major event coming up in this temple. Who knows what is the next major event? What is the first festival? Balaram Jayanti. And then what happens? Balaram is getting everything ready for whose appearance? And then what do we have? Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. And then what do we have? Radhashtami. So this month we have a lot of beautiful festivals. So I request you to please keep this in mind. Those days for Janmashtami, Balaram Jayanti, Radhashtami. We'll be sending out an email with all the details. If you're not on the emails, we have a WhatsApp groups, 2 groups for all the temple events that we'll be messaging it to you. We do not spam the group, we just send you temple details. If you would like, you can contact Vineet Prabhu. Can you raise both hands? Vineet Prabhu, you can contact him and he can give you all the details of how to be connected and how to stay connected to the temple. And also we have other saintly devotees. As you know, when Krishna appears, he always comes with Sangal Bangastra Parshadam. So there's other devotees who are coming here to glorify their lordships. This week we had Mukunda Datta Prabhu. I personally didn't get to have much of his live association other than on Facebook Live. But devotees looked very inspired in this whole week.
Haribo!
And those of you who missed, please don't forget there is more sadhus coming and you don't want to miss, because having the association of sadhus is very key, very important key to our spiritual advancement. So we have coming very soon, we're discussing with Lokanath Maharaj. Hopefully he will be coming through Balaram Jayanti. Communication is on, we're still almost certain, but things could change with the Swamis. They're traveling a lot and everyone wants to have them in their temples. So we have him for Balaram Jayanti. And for Janmashtami, His Holiness Subhag Swami Maharaj. He is coming from Mayapur. He is a Dhambasi in Mayapur and he spends time in Vrindavan and Mayapur. And then we also have His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj coming. And also His Holiness Ramapad Swami Maharaj coming. So we're getting golden lotuses made in Vrindavan. And they will be coming to Atlanta. And you will get to bathe Krishna with a golden lotus. You can offer him a golden lotus. So that is our theme. Every year we have different themes. Abhishek, shoes, so many different themes. So this year we have the golden lotus. So please come and see Shweta if you want any more, Shweta Swarup Prabhu, if you want any more details. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prasadam will be served outside. Please come and have the last darshan.